This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
Van de manier waarbij keer op keer jij in een aansluit de bank gooien.
Wat hier staat is nog maar een beetje, want er stopt op 25 kilometer file aan.
In deze uitloosheid.
I'd like to highlight a World Economic Forum initiative in this regard, the World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marcel Ernie, and this is Ernie Racing News, July 12th, 2022. And we are going to talk about the farmers' protest in the Netherlands, the Dutch farmers' protest. Hopefully, many of you are aware of what's going on, but if you're not, I'm going to go through the details, try to make sure everybody's informed, show you all the footage from the Netherlands. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Starten wir den Solidaritätsabokorso in Paraguay für die Landwirte in Holland und für die Landwirte natürlich auch hier in OWL und in Deutschland.
Dovreste venire tutti con noi perché mancherà il pane sulla tavola in queste condizioni. Non ce la facciamo più.
Kijk wie dit gaat voorspelen. Well, good evening, patriots, freedom fighters throughout Saskatchewan, across the country, and around the world. How we all doing tonight? So, a couple of things just in that intro that I want to just quickly touch on before we get into the rest of the evening here. I want everyone to understand that the World Economic Forum is not the pinnacle of this globalist agenda. The World Economic Forum is in place to support the overall agenda, the Sustainable Development Agenda, Agenda 2030. The World Economic Forum is simply a marketing tool. It's a left or right hand to the agenda. So when the Dutch Prime Minister says that he is committed to this partnership, it's important that people understand that the World Economic Forum is not the pinnacle. The agenda 2030 is the pinnacle of all of this. Another thing in regards to this agenda, the World Economic Forum was created by the same people who created the Sustainable Development Agenda, who first conceptualized this agenda. That, of course, was the Club of Rome. Club of Rome created the World Economic Forum and tapped Klaus Schwab to lead it. So it's important that people have that context and understanding. The Netherlands is not the only country on the planet that's going a little haywire. There's a number of them. I'm going to show you another quick little video before we get to the rest of the scheduled program. And tonight we're going to have Jody, Craven, Kari, Simpson, and Vlad Sobolev join us to discuss, what we're planning, and most importantly, the messaging behind it, and just some issues as to how this is related to Canadian farmers and how Canadian farmers are going to be put in the crosshairs of our federal government, who is also committed to this agenda. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the footage that I was referring to. Maybe I didn't get it on the Twitter machine. Maybe it's on my Facebook, but I'm just going to quickly find it here. Sorry, guys. I was rushing to get everything squared away today. Crazy trying to get some food in my belly before we went live and dealing with everything else. Yeah, sorry. I guess I'll have to wait till later to show it to you. I'll find it as we move along here. But so, of course, the big news is, and the sole purpose of us meeting here tonight, is to promote the idea of our protest in support of Dutch farmers and our farmers this coming July 23rd, this coming Saturday. It's time. It's time. Trudeau has laid the tracks. He's already referred to our farmers in Canada as some of the dirtiest farmers on the planet. Canada's, a worldwide breadbasket. But of course, nothing means more to these globalists like Trudeau and the Prime Minister of the Netherlands and other countries than the agenda, than meeting the agenda. Nothing means more to these people, regardless of how many generations farms have been in these families here in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and BC on the interior, and even the Lower Mainland. There's a lot of farms there that are going to be affected, and Kari Simpson's going to get into that. So, Hong Kong farmers, absolutely, Tara. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to bring in Jody, Craven, and Simpson. Vlad Sobolev will be joining us shortly. He's just in another stream. He's going to pop over here in a couple of minutes. Hello, Kari. Hello, Jody. How are you?
Good, Mark. Good to be here. Hi, Jody.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's
Good.
a bit busy.
Yeah, very busy.
Exactly. Very busy.
Very busy.
Yeah. So where are we at? What's happening in your neck of the woods? I know since I pretty much announced this thing yesterday, my phone's been off the hook, which is a good sign. People are very receptive to the idea of what we have planned on the 23rd. How about you guys?
Yeah,
Ladies first.
Thanks, Jody. I think there's this awakening, Mark, that people understand that the whole COVID issue was just the beginning of something bigger. And many people are going, okay, what is the next wave going to come in as? Well, the next wave has been already in fast forward motion since probably 2015, when we saw the 2030 agenda sort of start making noises. And now we find ourselves at a position where everybody goes, okay, we know that we saw the power of what government, those people we put in power over us, the absolute amount of power they have, through the lockdowns, through, well, you
Right.
can't go to this grocery store. So as everybody looks, there's, speculation, they're going to lock us down, they're going to do this, that. I think what we are seeing right now in the Netherlands is exactly where we're moving towards with as the 2030 agenda comes into its full fruition. And, the farmers are just the beginning of it. We have water metering coming in. We've got all kinds of other aspects of what we can eat, what we can't eat, food sovereignty, food security issues. But most importantly, it's our ability to feed people. And if you don't feed the crops, you don't feed the farmer, you don't feed, the world population. So we all have a very, very much a vested interest in what is transpiring in the Netherlands, because it's actually happening here in Canada. In 2020, Trudeau decided to meet those 2030 agenda goals by reducing the nitrous oxide in our fertilizers, as you said, those dirty farmers.
The nitrogen, yeah.
Right, by 30%. Well, if you do that, there's only certain crops that will grow. There's only a certain amount of food you can grow.
There's only a certain amount of quality.
Well, this is happening now in Canada. The Netherlands are just happen to be way ahead of us because they're more farm central, right? They understand with the amount of people that live in Europe, the importance of feeding those nations. Here in Canada, like, Saskatchewan is probably well aware of the importance of farming. But is downtown Vancouver out here in BC or Ottawa?
Nope.
No, but we need to be.
100% we do. And again, people need to understand and make the connection that when we're talking about this, the destruction of livelihoods, of farms in the hands of families that have been in those families for generations, it all leads back to the sustainable development agenda. It all leads back to this idea that they want to hyper centralize everything, all the resources, including farmland, including how we farm. They want to dictate it, and they want to control it. It's why Bill Gates owns most of the farmland in the States. He owns more than anybody else. He's a computer guy. What's he doing buying up farmland? What's he doing involved in vaccinations, right? But this is all about hoarding the resources centrally, this hyper centralization of resources and control of those resources, up to and including food. So that's what this is. It's all connected to this agenda, which is why for years I've been screaming about this agenda, because here it is. And you're right, Kari, COVID is and was this social engineering conditioning mechanism to prepare people for what's to come. More lockdowns, climate lockdowns, maybe food lockdowns. I mean, they may be rationing. They may be handing literally through digital ID, here is your rations for the month. This is what you're allowed to buy, right? And they're going to blame it on scarcity. They're going to blame it on distribution problems. They're going to blame it on transportation problems that they have created.
They're going to blame it on food equity. What makes you think you have more right to food than somebody in some country, far off? So
exactly,
this is about control. This is about compliance. This is about even, you said farmers that have been historically farming their fields. The question everybody listening, and they need to ask their friends this, is what will you feed your family when they say you're not allowed to have hamburger meat? You're not allowed to have products derived from beef because they're, dirty animals. We'll just continue the dirty farming thing. This is a reality. This is coming down. It is here already. It's just people are waking up to it now. So this is about food, food sovereignty, choosing what we want to eat. But more than that, this is about food security. What will you feed your family? If you're happy feeding your family crickets and mealworms, then don't bother listening, right? But if you understand, I think we already see children's health when the big vegetarian movement came in and we saw children deprived of certain levels of fat needed for growth. We've already seen the health repercussions in children as a result of that. Can you imagine when this starts happening, the crippling of our society as we deplete the necessary nutrients for people to be healthy? It will be disastrous, but it will provide control.
So, Kari, you sent along some documentation that I wanted to share that you can maybe explain a little bit. It is relative, of course, to BC. BC seems to be one of the more forward or progressive provinces. Obviously, they have an NDP government, so why wouldn't they be more communist? So I want you to explain some of these things that you sent to me just for the viewers so they get a grasp of what's coming. This is just in BC, and it doesn't mean it's not coming to Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and throughout the rest of the country, because it is.
Actually, it's already in 4 provinces, Mark. And
Right.
I want to tell you, so as we move forward on this, is not happening. We blame the NDP. This is happening more at the municipal level. So your municipal government people, your elections, for instance, in Ontario and BC this October, you need to start getting informed about this and only elect people who say no to the word sustainable. Anytime you hear the word sustainable now, your antennas need to go up, and the first word has to be not on my watch. So I'm going to also, so here's the sister document. I think I sent this to you too. This is the localizing the 2030 agenda in Canada. So this whole movement now we're seeing this localized movement. And what's interesting, when you read the 2030 agenda in Canada document, they say, oh, we're really not doing much, so don't bother looking. But of course, we see this already happening. So just this last week, the BC government started initiating something called Premises ID, where they want anybody with farm animals, and there's a whole list of them, including llamas, rabbits, beef, cows, chickens. And in Alberta, they're assigning unit quality to each one. So there's a criteria. So a horse is worth 3 units, for instance. And what they're doing is they want you to register every single animal you have, so they'll know where everybody's food products are available, or who needs to be dealt with in the case of another animal-derived pandemic. So out here in British Columbia a few years ago, when the avian flu struck, they ordered everybody with small home flocks of chickens to kill all their chickens, okay? Now, fortunately, most people didn't comply, but the government didn't have this nice tool where they could just open up their registry and go, okay, this farmer has it, this hobby farmer has it. Oh, this person who lives in Vancouver has 4 chickens, right? So this very much consolidates the information needed for enforcement. Now, when you look at the document that they've created in association with this, they talk about enforcement measures, because this just came out this week. This is the first time we've heard about this. I have a farm, I have chickens, I have horses. So this is the first time we've heard about this, even though this has been floating around in the bureaucratic world for a few years now. Okay. And you can see there, you've got what animals need to be registered. Okay?
Yeah, I'm looking at them. Pigeons. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they want you to identify, probably, maybe through a digital process at some point, all of the animals that you have on premises. So it's premises ID, right? So it's all of these. So they want to know exactly what you have. So when there's a pandemic, they can tell you, all right, you got to slaughter X amount of chickens. You have to slaughter X amount of sheep, whatever animals that you're raising.
Or Mark, or who are you, Kari, to have 40 laying hens where you're getting 30 eggs a day? You need to, in the spirit of the 17 sustainable goals, be a good community citizen and give away the food that you're producing, right? Because we know how important it is to be a responsible community member in Canada nowadays. You're supposed to participate in experimental injections, to keep your neighbors safe, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, so they also give the rationale, Mark, on this, using very creatively the floods that happened here in British Columbia last time. So they say, we need to know this because, if we ever have, a mass flood program, we need to know how many cows we need to rescue. and I hope people at some point, and I do have this in the works, I think we need to take all of the tools of propaganda that are in such evidence right now coming out of the various levels of government and put together, a course in propaganda so people can just read between the lines and say, when you see this kind of rationale, you need to stop. When you see talking about water quality, that means they want to meter your water and limit what kind of water you have access to, right? So translation of the propaganda is maybe one of the gifts we can give people here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's going to be
100%.
very important. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to
people
be
need
very
to
important.
understand. Like when you look at these 17 goals, and I have in depth, when you transpose these goals onto the Communist Manifesto, it's exactly the same thing on steroids. And you have to be able to read these things with a critical mind and understand what they actually mean, what the consequences are to them, because they're written in very pretty language, right? As communists usually do when they promote their ideas. But we all know hundreds of millions of people die when they're in power. So,
well, I think a good analogy for people to constantly ask themselves, if you have a tablespoon of sugar, majority sugar laced with cyanide, so just a little bit of cyanide, what effect is going to take prominence, right? It's going to be the cyanide. You don't need much cyanide compared to sugar to do you in, right? And every great deception is 90% truth. That's what makes it believable.
well, and what happened? I'm going to ask Vlad this question. Vlad, the last time that a government or a governing entity took control of the food, what happened?
People were starving to death. That's basically what happens, especially when the government has a specific agenda to try to create, fake equality. And one of the reasons why I started We All Essential is because, in Soviet Union, the slogan was also, we are all the same, we own this together. But then I was actually at 8 years old lining up outside of the store with food coupons because the government restricted how much food the family was allowed to buy. It did not matter how much money you have. You were only allowed to buy so much bread,
Right.
butter, etc. At 8 years old, that's 88 in Soviet Union and Kazakhstan. And at the same time, we had our own politicians and whoever was part of the elites. They had, whatever food they wanted, black caviar, meat. It doesn't matter, right? So,
and this is precisely what they want to do with the globalist agenda, but from a global governance position. This is for the planet.
Yeah.
And again, if you look at goal number 10, I bring this up in a lot of my presentations when I do the town halls. I bring up goal number 10 because it's where they want this equality within and among countries. Well, how do you achieve equality among 195 nation states? You destroy the first world. You bring the first world down to the second and third world. So everybody is poor and dependent on this global governance model. That's the outcome. That's what they're attempting to do here.
And to build up on what you guys mentioned earlier in terms of restriction of what people will be able to buy, part of the social credit system and digital ID and digital currency, etc. It's already been discussed that it's actually going to be programmed. So the allocated income that we're all going to get, each person actually, that digital money will be programmed to allow you only to buy you certain things. So if you want to buy meat with that digital money, you won't be able to because it's not programmed for you to do it. That's how much control they want to have over the people.
Yes, social credit, right?
And then if you don't use the money that they give you within a month, it's actually going to disappear. So there's not going to be any opportunity for you to save and maybe plan something that you want to expand. It's complete control and overpower of any type of initiatives and entrepreneurships, etc. Because, well, they don't want that, right? They don't want to have independent, resilient people. And the reason why they go after the businesses in the beginning of a pandemic, scamdemic that they did, in 2000, because those were the people, the strongest, the most resilient, the most independent. And when you have installation of a tyrannical government happening in real time, like we experienced the last 2.5 years, you cannot have independent, resilient people coexist. It just doesn't work. So they need to get rid of them. They need to suppress them economically to keep them silent. And by get rid of them, that means they squeeze them out. That's why we experienced the largest amount of people living in Canada in 40 years happened last year.
It's interesting because we have to understand and keep in mind that their number one priority in this agenda and in the development of this agenda back in the late 60s, early 70s was depopulation. Their theory is that the world and the planet is overpopulated. That theory has been debunked over and over again. But I want to play this again. I play it often, but it's very important to get context. This is a guy by the name of Dennis Meadows. He's one of the founders of the Club of Rome. He's one of the co-authors of Limits to Growth. He's one of the creators of Sustainable Development Agenda. And this is what he has to say.
In one way or another, we are so far, globally, we are so far above the population and the consumption levels, which can be supported by this planet, that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down. So I don't hope to avoid that. I hope that it can occur in a civil way, and I mean civil in a special way, peaceful. Peace doesn't mean that everybody's happy, but it means that conflict isn't solved through violence, through force, but rather in other ways. And so that's what I hope for. That we can, I mean, the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have. If you want more liberty and more consumption, you have to have fewer people. And conversely, you can have more people. I mean, we could even have 8 or 9 billion probably if we have a very strong dictatorship, which is smart. That's, unfortunately, you never have smart dictatorships. They're always stupid. So, but if you had a smart dictatorship and a low standard of living, you can have it. But we want to have freedom and we want to have a high sentence. So we're going to have 1 billion people. And we're now at 7, so we have to get back down. I hope that this can be slow, relatively slow, and that it can be done in a way which is relatively equal, so that people share the experience and you don't have
Share
a
the
rich,
experience.
Trying to force everybody else to deal with it. So those are my hopes. I mean,
Hopes.
These are pretty pessimistic hopes,
So noble of him, huh?
Yes.
That's what lies ahead.
He would like to reduce the Earth's population by 6 billion people in a special way, a peaceful way, and equally, so we can all share an experience.
Yeah. The equal is just the finishing touch. I that got me, Mark. I wasn't sold till that phrase came out.
Right. It's unbelievable, but this is the mindset, right? These are the people that created the agenda that we're now experiencing, that they've been developing and implementing for decades. And here we are. And we wonder if they're capable of destroying livelihoods, of destroying our ability to grow food. Yes, they are capable.
Well, we don't have to look far. We can just look at Sri Lanka, right? I think Sri Lanka was ahead of the game from more the other countries, because that's exactly what they implemented there for the last, multiple years, and especially last 2 years. Is they, was supposed to be the green oasis, like the example for all the countries to follow. And guess what? The country fell, right? And then it's pretty much a disorder right now. But it's actually, I wanted to bring something into the discussion, and maybe we'll just touch on it a little bit, because it's probably a very deep conversation. But what is that's actually the plan to collapse all individual governments? Because then, like, Sri Lanka has no choice right now but ask money from the World Bank to survive, right? And that's how the corporations potentially can take over, and then the one world government will be running. So it's almost like they're leading us to the path, potentially, some people, is to collapse the government, and then World Bank with one world government comes in and just swoops everything in.
It was the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, that recommended to all nation states 2 years ago to run enormous deficits to make up for whatever response they have to this COVID. Well, of course that's what they want, because again they want to centralize this governance. They want to centralize everything.
Yeah.
What I love, Mark, is that we could just even have a bad dictator and we're going to be better off. But I look around here at Canada, and we're having a failing medical and health system. Our education system is falling apart. What has government done well in this nation to invest in us this confidence that anybody could do this, right? And the bigger government gets, the more problems we seem to have, and
always.
I think the test should be like, when all the potholes don't exist for a year, then come talk to us, right? But even building roads and infrastructure. And of course, all of this moves into that agenda as well. But
Of course it absolutely does. I mean, people in Saskatoon, probably in other cities too, I'm assuming, you're literally driving down a goat path while they're building brand new sidewalks and creating bike lanes in a city that's frozen 7 months of the year, where there might have 12 bike riders, right? And nobody walks because it's too cold. But this is where we're at. It all leads back to everything. Everything that drives people crazy is related to this agenda, all of it. And so here it is. Here we are presented with the task at hand now to defend our farmers and to stand in defense of their livelihoods.
Well, and our right to have access to healthy food sources. If we don't support the farmers, we're not supporting our children, our families. We're putting ourselves in an ultra vulnerable position where our food safety is in the hands of those farmers and taking a stand on these things. So everybody has a vested interest in this. And we're always looking for what we can do solutions. As I said, we're going to put some documents together for people, just a quickie overview, so people can see how this is playing out, how important it will be in your municipal elections. And as I said earlier,
Yes.
Ontario, BC, go to municipal elections. Every person who's concerned about the future of this nation, the future for their children, having healthy, strong families, has to start asking these questions. Will you defeat the 2030 agenda?
Yes.
Will you keep Canada sovereign? Will you make sure our local community, when we send our bureaucrats and our councillors to all those meetings where they sit down and get indoctrinated with the nonsense, that they will say no to this?
Kari, you're so absolutely correct. I mean, everyone gets frustrated with federal politics. Everyone gets frustrated with provincial politics. They're the sexiest of the three, but it's municipal politics where we can actually put the brakes on a lot of this. They're using municipalities to implement these things locally. That's why local and that's why community is so important to take the first step in taking back our sovereignty, taking back our responsibility that we've abdicated for decades to people who we thought had our best interest at heart, and they haven't.
They haven't. And then, as I say often, and I'll just add to that, I think there's three main reasons why we're in such troubled times, around the world, but especially in Canada. One is we have a tremendous lack of leadership within general community and society in all the levels, right? In the churches, in organizations, in the businesses, etc., and obviously in the infrastructures, etc. The other thing is people just accustomed to be comfortable and seek comfort and stand up to something is uncomfortable, and I get it. And then the third main reason is for most Canadians, they think of the government as the best friend, not just as a friend, the best friend, right? In fact, the government is your worst. Yeah, the government is the worst enemy. And if people had any doubts about that, the last 2.5 years are very, very evident. So now, once you understand that, the goal is to get the government out of your life completely.
So with this event, and we talked about this earlier, this event that we're planning next Saturday, July 23rd, in Saskatchewan, we're putting together a slow roll from Moose Jaw to Regina. But it's really the first of maybe more to come, because I think we have to create the awareness. We have to educate as many of the population as possible. And this is what we're trying to do even tonight, is to educate, create the awareness. And then, as it grows, and it will grow, because let's face it, at the end of the day, this affects everybody. This will affect everyone across the board when we talk about food security.
100%, Mark. I think Kari, Vlad, myself, and yourself, Mark, we're on endless phone calls for the last few days here. And it's an awareness that people have to understand. No farmers, no food, no country. Right. This is another nail in the coffin to Canadians if we don't support our farmers. People have to be aware fertilizers went up, and it's hard to get for the farmers in Canada. Diesel price is outrageous for the farmers. Yes. And now they're capping the water on the farmers. So I preach to the farmers about this thing called primary water, right? This is why the government's not letting them to drill. It's an endless supply of water that we have underneath our feet. So I was reading that.
I got to cut you off there because water is another big part of this. It's another resource they want to control that they use to manipulate us. When at the end of the day, water, as we all know, is cyclical. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays on planet Earth. It just gets used, recycled, put back in the atmosphere, dropped back down. It's endless. It doesn't stop, right? So it's actually infinite if you think about it.
And it's pure water. Pure
You're muted, Vlad.
water.
Vlad, you're muted. Sorry, I said the CEO of Nestle openly said that people have no right to free water. Everything should be controlled and paid for, etc.
Right.
Jody, go ahead. I know you had other things to share.
We talked to several farmers across Canada too, and we're coming up with different type of solutions in case the government shuts them off on diesel, water, and all that, and we have a solution for fuel. It's good for the environment, right? Clean up all the plastic in Canada, right? It's called Renewal-G, right? So out of that, they break down the plastic, goes back to oil. The oil turns into diesel with zero emissions.
Beautiful.
And I read one of the comments that was someone put up there, stop donating to Ukraine. I forgot who wrote that, and donate to Sri Lanka. But I want to make a little note there. What the globalists or the elite in Ukraine, what they're doing with all the donation money, or some of it, they're buying property up in Switzerland.
Okay, sure there.
Yeah.
So basically next Saturday, let's focus on one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this today, and thank you for coming together. Obviously, if people, most part of the freedom movement familiar what's happening in Netherlands, the Dutch farmers basically been asked, a lot of them, to sell their farms to the government. They have no choice. They kind of have to do it, and also the fertilizers, etc., are going to be cut down. So long story short, Netherlands is one of the primary farming countries around the world, and that's crazy what they're trying to do there. Basically the Netherlands, and then they have farmers from Germany and Poland in support. So long story short, the next Saturday, the 23rd, the Dutch farmers asking people around the world in support to protest, and that's what we're doing here in Canada. There can be many different actions, and I guess the main focus, what I want to say is the main target for us is to make sure that we bring more awareness to what's happening in Netherlands, but also what's happening here in Canada and around the world. So there's going to be multiple different rallies, slow rolls, protests happening in Canada, in different countries as well. One of the focuses, besides doing the slow rolls on the highways, is actually protests in front of the embassies and consulates of Netherlands. And that's going to be happening in the States and in some other countries. And we obviously should be doing something like that here in Canada. The embassy is obviously always in capital. So for us, it's Ottawa again. I know people have different mixed feelings about Ottawa, but that's where the embassies for all the countries always located in the capital. And then you have consulates in all the major cities. So obviously there's a consulate in Vancouver, there's a consulate in Toronto, and many other places. So I know Mark is doing a slow roll in Saskatchewan, and that's great. I know in BC, in Vancouver, they're organizing a rally in front of the Dutch consulate. Here in Toronto, there's going to be multiple things happening. There's going to be a slow roll happening earlier in the day on Saturday for the highways. The meetup place will be the Vaughan Mills Mall for people that are familiar with GTA. But then there's a usual rally that happens in Toronto on Saturday at Queen's Park at 12 o'clock all the time. So that's going to be happening. And then we will be marching towards Dutch consulate, which is located actually very close to Dundas Square. Like I mentioned, Ottawa is very important. I'm personally not there right now, but if the people in Ottawa can organize and get together and do a protest in front of the embassy, I think it's going to be very symbolic. And I think that's what's going to happen around the world. Is every single embassy should have some type of protest, and it should be filmed and streamed, and then those clips should be all edited together, and it should be literally showcase that we are united around the world, that when our farmers in one country are under attack, the whole world is coming together in front of the embassy for that specific country. So when the elites go after different country farmers, we do the same, right? And that shows how unified and organized we are as the people standing for our freedom.
100%, 100%. And so across Canada, of course, every province is going to have their own thing. And I have a contact in Alberta. Ron Clark is sort of taking care of things there. BC is in good hands. You guys can do what you need to do. Vlad, you're in Ontario. Manitoba, I haven't heard from anybody yet, but hopefully in the next day.
I think they're doing the role there as well.
They are? Okay, good. Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Okay, very good. And so people are asking in the room, of course, a lot of people are in Saskatchewan here, asking if they can slow roll from Saskatoon to Regina. Sure. I mean, we obviously want the big one to be Moose Jaw to Regina. So if you're going to do a slow roll to Regina, do it early so you can make it to Moose Jaw and then join us. And because we'd like to have everyone together. The bigger the presence, the bigger the impact, right? So we instead of having it split up in all these different areas, I realize it's tough for people to make it, let's say from Yorkton or from Prince Albert to Moose Jaw. I get it. It's tough, especially with fuel prices the way they are. So it is what it is. But anybody that has the resources to make it to Moose Jaw, that's preferable. But other than that, do whatever it is you think you can do.
And the other quick thing to do, obviously, get Dutch flags, right? So then you wave the Canadian flags and Dutch flags wherever you are. And the other good thing that people definitely should be doing, we had some people express the interest, is to do overpasses, signs with overpasses on the highways, right?
Yeah.
And again, like stream it, record it, share it on social media as much as we can have happening at the same day in multiple different locations. Let people express how they want to express. I think that's really very important. Again, being in the freedom movement for the last 2.5 years, there's obviously multiple ideas. People think their way is the right way, and it's not our place to say to them it's not.
Yes.
And if anything, if you really feel very strong about what you want to do, amazing. God bless you. Become a leader. Recruit people to come with you and do that. Do the bridge highway overpasses. Do the slow rolls. Do the protests in front of the embassies, the consulates. All those multiple actions lead us to one main goal: create more awareness and educate people about what's really happening. And the more we do it, we can multiply and duplicate our actions.
To add on to Vlad's thing and Kari's and all of ours and Mark, one of our goals is to start uniting all these groups into one thing, because we just got presented a nice gift from the Dutch farmers, and we should be rolling on this and running with it.
Well, so that's interesting you say that, Jody, because I have here's how this works, right? So we're a whole bunch of freedom fighters. We all love individual freedom, and a lot of us are in all these different groups. So we're on these different paths, but we're going in the same direction. And every so often something comes about, like the convoy to Ottawa, where every group rallied around the convoy and united for that cause. Here's another one where we all see the value in defending food and food production and food growth and how important it is to our survival. Here's another one where those paths are all going to merge. 100% they will. How can you not agree to support this? So it's one of those things. 100%.
I think when people understand that their family, their own health, that this is going to affect them, their children, their community. Can you imagine watching the community around you of people, neighbors, friends, family that you love slowly deteriorating away from hunger, from lack of proper nutrition? Right. That is where we're going with this. Don't kid yourself. And all you have to do, I often say, Mark, that COVID has been a gift because it actually convinced people. They experienced firsthand what a tyrannical government will do to her people in a good nation like Canada. Lock them down. Don't let them into stores. Pit neighbor against neighbor. If we haven't woken up to the fact that this is a reality and that this is a plan and that this is the next stage, then I don't know what will convince you, but I think
it's 100%. But this is what we've said all along, that it's going to take some events, it's going to take some things to affect people's lives directly for them to take the blinders off, for them to have their bubble burst. Because people walk around in this bubble as long as they're paying the mortgage, putting food on the table, getting little Johnny and Susie to hockey practice and to school, everything is fine. But guess what? Mark Friesen's not going to burst their bubble, but reality and the consequences of reality are going to. And when they do, as they are, more and more people are going to wake up. And that's what we're seeing. That's what is happening around the world. And it's going to happen here too.
And you know what, Mark? I think if we embrace that reality right now, we have the power as people in this nation.
Yes, we do.
Full stop to this.
Yes.
But it's going to take people coming together. It's going to take sacrifice, and it's going to take their time. Please make us your new distraction, your freedom. Make that your new hobby. But there's so many good people doing so many good things, but it is going to take a nation singing the same song, identifying what we want as a sovereign nation, and moving to protect that.
Together we're strong. Divided we fall. We all have to unite to be one.
Mark, can you put a website, standwithfarmers.info? Again, this is something very quickly that we put together, geared towards standing with farmers.
So what's it again?
Standwithfarmers.info.
I was going to ask you about a website, and I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah, I read your mind. And basically, Marcella helping coordinate flyers across, multiple locations. Obviously, you have a flyer already, so we're gonna add those flyers to this site, so then people can go to one site and see what's happening, across the country. We'll do our best to add them up by, Tuesday. I would say it should be definitely there. But that's basically the site that we put. Very generic. Just basically the focus is standing with farmers, and my goal is to have some of the materials from Kari and you, Mark, on this site, so then people have one location that they can kind of info. And then this is a good slogan that can even be put on the banners and signs, etc. Right? So it's
most of the information that I have is on our website. You can
so we can link it or whatever
to the website, because we talk about the agenda and stuff. So
and same thing with Kari. We can link all your resources from your site, because that gives people opportunity to go to your sites and then explore and learn more about what you guys have there.
And Vlad, you raised something that was really important. People, please take video, take pictures, and make sure they find a way to this website. Okay, Vlad, are there any hashtags that are already trending associated with this movement?
Stand with Farmers, definitely there. We Move is one.
Hashtag Food for Thought and hashtag Farmer Strong.
Yeah, Farmer Strong. Slip in my mind, there's something else there, but it'll come to me.
And I just want to again reiterate the importance of us being able to tell our story, right? That's crucial. So every little 3-minute video clip that's clear, that actually sends a message or conveys the moment, those are useful tools in our hands, and everybody needs to combine these tools, and we'll build a really good movement here.
100%. And this isn't going away. This is going to be a while. This is going to be a long one, but an important one.
Yeah.
It matters the most, like the way I've been kind of, living my life for the last 2.5 years. I'm going all in, because what else really matters than, future of my kids and kids in this country, around the world. And ultimately, obviously we all know that we're going to win, but the reality is, when you go into the war, there's no guarantees, right? But at least you're doing something that's worth dying for, and that's kind of how I look at this life. We only have one life. We might as well make the most impact we possibly can.
What a time to be alive. What an 100%. Opportunity. What a sense of purpose. There is no greater purpose.
No.
Hey, Mark, the other thing I want to mention, we want to reach out to the restaurants too, because they're going to get affected big time. right? So
Absolutely.
we want them on board, marching hand to hand with us, right? Big time,
Yeah.
right? This nitrous bill policy Trudeau's introduced right away, 30% of everything gone, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to witness what's going to happen. Obviously, our governments in their way of looking after us, building this multi-million-dollar crickets, worm facilities. One in London already been open. I think they're building another one in Alberta. I'm sure they're going to have one in every single province, and that's just part of it. They already were serving, warm hot dogs in Stampede in Alberta, of all the places, right? So nobody's going to be spared.
Yep, it's coming.
Yeah, well, we'll blame Alberta, Vlad. Let's do that. I mean, what were they smoking that day when they let that into the Calgary Stampede, right? Like,
well, they had what's the names of the lady, the NDP premier, and I was shocked when I was blessed to drive around Canada and organize different rallies. I was shocked to see how many windmills in Alberta, of all the places. I actually was very shocked to witness that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Just
Anything else to add?
Yeah.
Anything you guys want to close with?
Yeah. Identify people within your community to run for municipal government. That includes your mayor, your town council, and the school board. Much of this agenda, they are indoctrinating the kids from the get-go with this. We have to save the kids. As a matter of fact, at this point, I'm saying, public education is abusive to children, it's abusive to this nation. But identify good people. And that means, business people who've actually proven that they know how to run a business, because your local government should just be about the business, not about agendas of starvation, not about agendas of controlling people and how much water they can access.
Right.
So from the Canadian Voters Association, we are committed to keeping people informed and supported, because when you do get those good people elected, they are bombarded by this onslaught of propaganda and bully tactics to get them to comply. So we, in addition to getting good people to run, strong people, we have to offer that support to them as well. So
100%. And Kari, for a long time, we've been bitching and complaining about politicians, but the reason they're in place is because of us. We've abdicated our responsibility for decades. We've been fat and lazy and complacent, and we've allowed it to get to where it is, that they're now in a position to do this to us. We have to take back that responsibility. It is up to us. The people have the power. They just need the information to know how to exercise that power.
Yeah, they need the education. And I think that's ultimately what happened in the last 2.5 years. In their attempt to enslave the world, they actually waking up the world. And the people that had nothing wanted to do ever with politics or knowing the legislation, whatever, they all learning this stuff. And now they actually becoming knowledgeable rather than being ignorant. Because these politicians, if you watch them when they talk, they specifically say, oh, we're saying this, complicated words, don't worry about it, politics. Like they're literally telling the people that it's dumb for them to even attempt to understand the political structure, whatever. But if you actually choose to be knowledgeable and not ignorant and take charge and responsibility for the life that you live and the community that you're part of, things really can change. And we've seen the examples of people coming together and forcing Jason Kenney to resign. And there's multiple resignations happening around the world too. So, I think this is a really great opportunity for the people, again, to come to their own power and use whatever leverage they can in the local governments. As Kari mentioned, we have a tremendous opportunity in 2 big provinces, Ontario and BC, to make a real change in the municipal election. So let's make it happen.
Yep,
well, and Mark, I just want to say this before we go. Democracy is probably the most precious gift we have as Canadians. We have the right to use our voice, our value as a consumer, our vote. And I know, I share in the cynicism of the political movement, but mostly my cynicism lies in the fact that people haven't appreciated this gift we have. It is a tool in our hands. People need to pick it up, learn how to use it, and we need to build a nation with a common vision of sovereignty, freedom, and respect for all citizens, not buying into globalist agenda or giving Trudeau a seat on the global community. This is our nation and the nation that will be our children's future. We need to understand the seriousness of this, and you cannot wait. We are at the final hour here.
This is it.
We have one more chance at this, guys. So, I tell people, look, you need to use your voices. If you can't be constructively critical, be totally unreasonable. We'll be far better off than we are right now. But
100%.
there are so many good people doing so many good things. And I get to see that from the Canadian Voters Association, how many people across this nation are saying, Kari, what do we do? Where do we go? And how do we do it? And it's not that complicated, but you have to first understand that you don't get something for free. If you want to have the nation that we once believed we lived in, that's going to take effort, time, and a bit of your energy.
Absolutely.
So,
Jody, final words?
Yeah, I want to end with that weekend. We're going to hit them with a 1-2 punch, right? There's going to be, I think, an event on the 22nd with
Stand United with
physicians and surgeons.
Surgeon and physicians building, which is a Friday all across the country. I think there's like 16 or 18 locations or something like that.
Yeah. So in Vancouver, it's Howe Street. So 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And that's from Marcella and James. If any viewers want to get in contact with them.
Vlad, can you read the bottom?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So this site is brand new, guys. So give us a little bit of time to kind of iron out the glitches. Yes.
Yeah. Then the other thing, we want to get all the farmers who's listening, do a sign up. We want to have a master sheet of all the farmers. Then bang, we could just blast out an email to them right away. And last but not least is our event, the farmers one, Slow Roll. So, and during our little radio session here, Mark, I had a text message from a farmer from New Zealand, and he would like to come on your show if possible and tell the story what's going on in New Zealand.
Yep.
So
absolutely. I got maybe tomorrow night. I got firefighters out of Calgary Tuesday, so maybe tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll send you the details.
Okay. All right, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for lending your time. I know you guys are all just as busy as I am, but it's important, and this was a very good discussion. And maybe we can do an update later in the week, or maybe before Saturday, or maybe shortly after. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Stay tuned, guys. Social media, check whatever groups. Flyers already out there flying around. So, whatever speaks your language and whatever you're capable of doing. If you don't have a car, of course, you're not going to do slow roll. So then go to your local consulate and an embassy or your local rally and be a part of that. And ask questions.
Sure.
Ask, how can I be a part of? How can I help? How can I spread more information? What resources are out there? It's up to us to take initiative and ask, how can I be involved and how can I make a difference? And trust me, there are people out there that can guide you. We just need to know that you are ready to do some work.
If we have people en masse, there's nothing stopping us.
No.
Even if they share that poster, that's something, right?
I'll end with this. The elites, the psychopaths, whatever you want to call them, they have unlimited resources, money, technology, etc. But they're missing one key resource, and that's the people. And we have the people. And so let's just go all in on the people. We have the power.
100%. That's how we win. They've underestimated humanity. In fact, humanity to them is the enemy. They've underestimated it.
Yeah.
Which means we win.
Humanity always
prevails. We're the great reset.
We're doing a great awakening. Okay. Love you all. Thank you for everyone.
Good seeing everybody. Thanks, Mark.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
See you later. I'm going to kick you out. I'm going to try.
Yeah, we don't go easy, Mark.
No.
Okay, bye, Kari.
Not our Western people.
All right, see you, Jody.
Thanks, Mark.
You betcha, buddy. All right, guys. So a good little chat. Again, specifically in Saskatchewan, I'm just going to put up the flyer here again. Well, why does it keep doing this to me? Hang on. I'll find it. Put it up again. It keeps disappearing on me. Anyways, so Saskatchewan, a lot of people are asking, can we do this? Can we do that? Sure. But preferably we want to see everybody in Moose Jaw. and it's meeting at the Service Road by Prairie Oasis towards Peanut Hill, which is on the east side of town. Peanut Hill Campground at noon. So if you Google those places, you'll find it, and meet us there at noon. And if you're going to do a slow roll from Saskatoon, awesome. There might be a little bit more. I'm not going to disclose anything at this point, only because we want to. Yeah, never mind. I can't say anything, but this is all the information you're going to need until that day. So please get there en masse with your tractors, with whatever farm equipment you feel comfortable with, and we'll slow roll it, and we're going to make a huge impact. I'm going to get a banner made up for an overpass that we can use. Optics, video is incredibly important. I'm going to bring my drone along, hopefully get some really good footage. It's very important to create that awareness, to create the buzz, to make sure that we're having the effect and the impact that we want from this. So as many people that can show up and can dedicate their day, and obviously a few dollars in fuel, more than a few, it is what it is. Now's the time. This is it, folks. We're at the precipice, and now they want to destroy livelihoods, and they want to destroy the farm. They want to destroy the ranch. They want to destroy our ability to be self-reliant, our ability to be self-determinate, and our independence. They need to crush that. This is what this is all about. We can't allow them to do this. Where have our premiers been? You'd think in a province like Saskatchewan that is so farm-centric that our premier would be talking about this, that our premier would be denouncing Ottawa and denouncing the World Economic Forum and the UN Sustainable Development. You'd think they'd be denouncing all of that and defending the people of Saskatchewan. Scott Moe, where have you been? Where are you? Nowhere to be found. Silent. You haven't touched this at all. It's disgusting. You don't, sir, do not belong in that position. Neither does your party. You need to be gone if you're not going to defend and represent the people that put you in that office. Where are you? Where are you? Silent. Okay, you be silent. The people will take it from here. Anyways, that's going to be a wrap for tonight. Stay tuned. Might have on a New Zealand farmer tomorrow. We got Calgary firefighters who are taking Calgary to court. That'll be a great interview on Tuesday. Other than that, that's it. Just share this video, share the flyers, share as much as you can. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family, get them involved. Whatever province you're in, find somewhere, find people that you can come together. This is it, folks. This is it. I don't know if Pat King's out tomorrow or not. I have no idea. I haven't heard much. I don't know. Yeah, at least we have Mo to snap at. Yours resigned. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. So that's it. That's a wrap. And remember, globalism bad, nationalism good. Ciao for now.
One day, one day, one day, I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.